Morning everybody, Stalling Bear here. Just doing a recording. I did my first hike yesterday with the pack after 2 weeks off. Wanted to give you an update. Everything feels good this morning. Had a little tenderness on my left ankle, so I put some nuclear tape on that. That stuff's amazing. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, goes on, stays on. It's like a added protection, second skin that really cuts down on any hot spots that you have. And my intention on the trail is to use it as much as prevention as blister recovery as well. So for the weight, it's dynamic. Also, we'll be bringing some KT tape for any strains that I might have, because that's also amazing in its applications. I just had some random thoughts, and I think one day maybe I'll just do a whole video of random thoughts because they come to my mind periodically. And it's one of the things that allows me to continue hiking and pass the time without much effort, because I keep myself entertained. I'm one of the funniest persons, if not the funniest persons I know. In fact, last August, when I was hiking in Colorado, I was pretty far up on Scouts Trail, and out of nowhere was this old, rusty, mid-60s Chevy pickup truck. And so I take a picture of it and put it on Instagram and put some caption on there. Oh, so that's why I parked last night. It's hell having one extra beer. And I started laughing out loud. And as soon as I came around the corner, there was a lady sitting there, which I later found out her name was Sharon. And she said something to the fact, "Oh, having a good morning, are you?" And so if you hear people laughing out loud on the trail, it's probably me engaged in my own thoughts and my own humor. This is a random thought that I've been holding on to for a while, that I've always meant to get into one of the videos. I guess it's actually 3 years now. At Christmas time, Denai bought me a Fitbit. So this is kind of two stories in one. She bought me a Fitbit, and she was so excited about it. And so a couple days later, she saw it still sitting on the dresser in the box, and she was kind of disappointed, I could tell. And she asked me why I wasn't wearing it. So I told her, well, that's a size small and I need at least a large. And she said, oh, she laughed, and she said that she would exchange it. I said, well, you're so interested in it and it's something that you would like, why don't you keep the small until you exchange it? So she did, and she was using it and everything. So the year later, at Christmas time, I do open the package, and the first thing she said, it's the right size. So I got the Fitbit 2 years ago, Christmas now, and I started wearing it last January, January 7th. And from January 7th until November, and in November, I'm still wearing it, but in November, I get this little notification saying, you've earned the India badge. And I look at the India badge, and the India badge says that I have accomplished walking 2,100 miles. And I laughed because here it was, it took me 11 months to walk 2,100 miles. And I consider the fact that I walk a lot. You know, that 10,000 steps a day goal, no problem for me whatsoever. But here I am planning to walk the Appalachian Trail at 2190 within 3 or 4 months. And it took me 11 months of normal walking to accomplish that in daily life. Amazing. Another thought that I had is that when I first started recording, I had one of my friends tell me, oh, you look very comfortable on the camera. And when I told my mom that, I also followed that up with saying, well, of course I'm comfortable. I'm talking to my phone. My phone and I have had a close relationship for the past couple of years. It knows my daily activities and all my hope and dream. Of course, I'm comfortable talking with that. And I would normally classify myself as an introvert, shy and quiet, very observant when I first meet somebody. And so I know everything is going on before I really engage into a social group. There seems to be a few others on the vlogging channels as well that would classify themselves as introverts. I'll get right back to that as I cross the street. This is the first weekend of the new year, so it seems like the people out exercising and running and walking and biking have doubled, if not tripled. So you can tell everybody's New Year's resolution. Back onto the introvert subject. I've been watching three main videos over the past week or so. Early Riser and Scoutmaster, because they both left early. And so I want to understand the conditions that they saw, knowing that from day to day the conditions change, and year to year even more so. It'll give me a good idea how to prepare for the trail. The other one is Evan. I know he left later, and with all the rain he's been going through, I think I'd rather deal with cold and snow than the rain. So, but his videos are also very informative about the trail and the area and the history of the area. All three of them are entertaining, and I get great value out of them. But I mentioned them because they also classified themselves as introverts. Scoutmaster said more so when he was young, that people wouldn't classify him that way now. And Early Riser would say even a high introvert. And it's funny that you would never glean that from the videos themselves. And probably the same with me, because I look on there and I'm like, gosh, I'm so chatty. And that's not me normally at all, until you get to know me. So I think it probably makes good for entertainment, because a lot of the introverts are very introspective, and when they say something, it's with purpose. And so you get a lot of information and insight of their experience and intuition on that as well. I hope to view some other videos so I can get a well-rounded view on that. The other information I'm getting from all three of them is diet and what they're eating on the trail. I know the trail and the location that you resupply dictates a lot of that. I have, since the beginning of last year, been following a more of a low-carb diet. And through my research and everything, I understand too about the fat burning and the protein use. And I would like to stick that into my trail as well. But I also have a sweet tooth, and I like that. So my granddaughter's hooked on honey buns as Early Riser was. So I see the possibility of that happening as well. As you can see, busy trail today. See, this is a perfect example of more random thoughts. As you saw those bikers go by, unless I edit it out, you heard all three of them said thank you, which I would say is pretty unusual with that. Brings me back to Early Riser, making comparison of northerners and southerners. I found the same climate in Miami, and I actually did that one day as well. When I was early hiking, I would greet people in the morning, good morning, how are you? And like 2 of the 10 people I said it to responded back. And it was just simple, hello, good morning. It wasn't anything as far as how are you as well. And I grew up in Colorado, where you're driving through town, you're head bobbing or waving to people and saying good morning, or you often see people parked side by side in a road talking to each other. And then since there's a large Latin community in Miami, I proceeded with a Spanish greeting. Buenos dias, buen dia, and the response went to like 8 or 9%, or 8 or 9 out of 10. So you got to understand the culture that you're in and how they respond to that as well. And they continue. While I was watching Evan's video, he talked about how the first mile, or when he first starts out, how it takes him a little bit to get into the sync of everything. And he also interviewed, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name fully, I think it was Pappy something, the old gentleman of an incredible life. But I want to watch the whole video of Evan's interview. But he said the same thing. The toughest part was the first mile and a half. That really determines how far he's going to go and how he feels for the rest of the hike. I just thought about that because I just kind of hit that rhythm. The same with me. The first mile, I get my breathing down, my legs get in sync, and the rhythm. And after that point, it's smooth sailing. So I notice the difference in my breathing and everything else. And that's why it's difficult for me to stop, because I know that after lunch or after a break, I'm gonna have to go through that whole process again. I have a MP3 player that I'm gonna be taking with me because it's lightweight, and it includes a FM radio and a clock, and I do have some music downloaded on it, but I also have Spanish lessons downloaded on it, which is the main reason why I bought it in the first place. So if you're walking through the Appalachian Trail and you hear some bad broken Spanish, it's me practicing. Not a random thought, but a random view of the path up to the beach overlooking the bay. Random view of South Beach and the open water. Part of the reason I'm recording today is I downloaded 2 video editors to my phone so I can get used to using those. Klein and Power Director. They were the 2 most highly rated. I used Power Director yesterday, and I'll edit this one with Klein to find out which one's user friendly. Coming towards the end of the hike, I'll get over 4 hours a day, probably somewhere around 12 miles. But I thought of a few other things. You'll be able to tell that I've watched a lot of videos recently. But I want to thank Early Riser for giving me 2 more reasons to look forward to the trail. 3 Little Pigs and Mexican food. All of my friends and family back in Colorado can attest to there's nothing better as far as comfort food and a smothered green burrito. And if I can find a restaurant that can compare to any of the restaurants in Colorado, I may have to take a couple 0 days. My father makes an awesome green chili. My sister makes an awesome green chili. Both different in their own ways, but great. So it's going to take me home a little bit. Good morning, everybody. Stalin Bear here. I don't know if I'm going to add this on to yesterday's random thoughts or start a whole new series of random thoughts. But as I was walking out the door this morning, I thought to myself, ooh, chili. And it made me laugh. I'm thinking, my gosh, I would love to have this conditions on the trail. I looked at my phone, it was 57 degrees. The sky was clear, no rain or clouds visible. I would take that all the way from Springer to Katahdin. It reminds me of a story when I was getting ready to transfer to Pearl Harbor. I had a friend, Ron, that transferred about 3 months before me. And he called me tell me a story about when his alarm clock went off. It was set to the radio mode, and the announcer said, "It's a chilly 73 degrees out today." And so we both had to laugh because we were stationed in Bangor, Washington before that. And to see 73 degrees would be wonderful to us. So it's all based on your perception and what you're accustomed to on that. I'm hiking in a light t-shirt and shorts, so I'm comfortable, especially now that I'm going. I'm still in that first mile, so I'm catching my wind and everything, but I would hike in this all day long without any problem at all. So we'll finish this one off with back them up, move them out.